So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Petr and I'm from Prague Security Studies Institute. And would like to welcome you here at Cafe Campus at the public debate called Russia's leverage in Central Europe, similarities and differences. This public debate is a part of a larger project called Raising Awareness of Russian soft power in Central Europe, in which PSSI, together with our partners from Hungary, Slovakia, and Poland, are analyzing the toolbox that the Kremlin is using to enhance its leverage over Central European countries, be it economic or financial, propaganda, political or cultural activities. And in this event, the main aim of this gathering is to identify the most striking points, tools used by Russians and their proxies in respective countries. And without further ado, I would like to welcome our panelists here. I will start with my colleague from PSSI, Ivana Smolenova. Then from my right, Andras, Deak, from Hungary, Center for Euro-Atlantic Integration and Democracy. Anthony Český from Polish Center for International Studies, and Rusian. And I'm really sorry that we butchered your name tag, which had C to his name. So I'm really sorry for that from Slovak Foreign Policy Association. The speakers will shortly introduce the situation in their respective countries, and then we will follow up with Q&A. One technical issue is if you would like to pay for your beers, coffees, or wines via card, you have to go to the bar. Unfortunately, their ID is not working well. So we will start with Ivana, the Czech Republic, the country, the Polish choice.
Shall I use this one? This one? Okay. Can you hear me, everybody? Okay. First of all, thank you all for coming here. It's really nice to see a big interest from so many people in this topic, which is highly current issues. I would first maybe start with why we are sitting here in the first place, and why we actually think that the Russian influence is different than, for example, US influence, because that's one of the most common questions that we get from audience. So what? So US is doing its own propaganda, everybody's doing propaganda. What is the difference? Well, there is a fundamental difference between what Russia is doing and what is doing, for example, Western countries. Because in a sense, when you look at it, there's nothing wrong about any country propagating its interest in other countries. You can see the France got its French institutes, the US got its a lot of activities abroad. Even Czech Republic got its cultural center all around the world, which are promoting Czech culture. But there is a significant difference in what Kremlin is doing currently in the countries of West, mainly Europe and United States. And when you look at the goal of what they're doing, it's not to build something, or it's not constructive, but rather destructive. It's not to build some kind of a positive picture of Russia. That would be okay, but it's rather to destroy our internal integrity and to undermine unity within EU, within NATO, to spread hatred, and basically. Why so many analysts right now are so concerned about this threat is because in last 27 years we have built some institutions here in Czech Republic, for example, and somebody's trying to destroy it. Somebody's trying to undermine what we have today, and that's why we are sitting here. That's why we don't have the discussion about influence of any other countries but Russia, or rather Kremlin. You're more generalized to whole Russia. It's more about what Kremlin is doing. And now let me talk a little bit more, my introduction, about what are the tools of influence in Czech Republic. Because Czech Republic is actually very important countries for Russia, for Kremlin. and it's strategically it's very well placed. It's in the center of Europe, so it's close to Germany, it's close to Poland. It's got a very good strategic location. Historically, there have been quite a good ties between the two countries. There's a big Russian minority in Czech Republic. There's a lot of Russian business, there's Russian students. So it's definitely, and it's also, of course, member of NATO and the EU. So it makes it an important country itself for them. And I will start with like those tools of influence with the Russian embassy, because I think that's often neglected issue, but also very important. Because what the Russian embassy, most of executives, especially I'm going to talk about the cultural center, because like most of these activities are actually there's not much wrong about it. I mean, it's promotion of Russian culture, language, working with young people. But in between, you have those like propaganda messages, and I think actually the embassy's got quite a crucial role within the cultural influence in Czech Republic, because by cultivating ties with the organization in the Czech Republic, it's spreading its view of the world. And I'll give you an example. So they basically when you check the website of the cultural center in the Russian embassy, they're creating events every day. It's either roundtables, exhibition, etc., discussions, and usually in cooperation with some like local organization. And by doing this, you're cultivating ties in the expert or cultural community. And just one example, so they organized something with the Czech Association of the Russians, and then the director of the association, in his interview in one of the mainstream media, said basically in Kiev there are neo-Nazis. And that's not true. That's basically, I mean, I'm not saying it was influenced by the Russians, but it's the way of cultivating ties, spreading these messages. Then you have influence of like these pro-Kremlin narratives in the political scene, and in this respect, all networks remain. You have the Communist Party still in Czech Republic, is one of the only country I think the EU's got Communist Party actually is a parliament, which still has the communist name in its name. Then you have a number of members in the one of the parties, and then of course I don't want to go too much into the President Zeman, but because I mean Czech Republic, I feel like I'm bringing wood to the forest, you know, because most of you know the situation with the Zeman and his connection to Russia and how it like translates later. So just give you two key advisors. It's the Mayevi and Spitek, who are close to Russian business and Russian interests. And then, of course, Zeman himself every year is going to Rhodos to a conference organized by Yakunin, and he's speaking about lifting of sanctions or like Ukraine, etc. And another interesting within the political scenes, actually more of this, a lot of like members of parliaments have been traveling to Donbass and Crimea, and I'm actually wondering whether this is the case in other countries of the P4. Whether no. So over the last 3 years, there has been maybe like 10 members of parliament, or like that actually travel either to Donbass or Crimea, and that's basically, yeah, that's illegal without notifying either Czech government or the Ukrainian government. So nothing in Poland.
Not members of parliament, but a member of European Parliament, for example.
Polish.
Jan or the now arrested espionage charges Mateusz Piskorski, who used to be a member of parliament in Smolenova party, which was a part of the Polish government, the first law and justice government in 2005. But
MPs regularly visit Crimea, Donbass, but those MPs used to visit and even they also role at referendum. This is understandable since the Jobbik, the right-wing radical Jobbik, recognizes Crimea as a part of Russia.
Yeah.
So they recognize the referendum on the joining to Russia, and for them it's the same. This Crimea and also Donbass.
So I had because you're all, most of you are Czech, so you know the political landscape. I just named briefly the parties that were represented in either of those territories. It was KSČM, but it's not a surprise. But Úsvit, of course, not a surprise. But ANO and ČSSD. For ANO it was Stanislav Berkovec, and for ČSSD Miloslav Souška. And they traveled to Crimea actually to oversee the referendum in 2014. And then, apart from it, and maybe I'll end with this tool of influence, is the whole issue of Russian disinformation campaigns. And actually, a lot has been said about it in the media, so I won't go into details. But and I gotta say, I focus on both Czech Republic and Slovakia, so I'm gonna put it in one group. In Czech Republic and Slovakia, is around 100 websites that are spreading pro-Kremlin, anti-Western narratives. Out of those 100, approximately, only one is owned by Kremlin. That is Sputnik News, Czech version of Sputnik News. That's it. Then you have one Czech website, Eurodění.cz, that is owned by Russian citizens living in Czech Republic. That's it. All the others are basically either owned by some individuals or somebody we don't know. Because today, frankly, anybody can create a website, start writing about things that people like, and call itself alternative media. Then you have like Facebook, of course, social media. There are a number of groups that are spreading these pro-Kremlin messages, and a couple of print media and radio. And I think I'll stop here.
Thank you very much, Ivana. And I would like to ask Andrej to identify the most important tools of Russian influence being used in your country of Hungary.
Thank you. But I have to admit that I have a bit of respect for Russians in terms of influence building, because if you look from the bigger picture, but these countries, especially Hungary, should be very well in the Western alliance. So in terms of economy, as you may know, Hungary is deeply integrated in the EU. Economy and trade. Is it closing up? Okay. Almost 80% of Hungarian exports go to the EU, and this means that it's much one of the most integrated countries. It is a member of the EU, it's a member of NATO. The political system used to be, at least, like very many EU countries. And what is more, the EU funds, which can be interpreted in terms of some sort of trend seeking, is also coming from Brussels, not from anywhere else. So if you look from the classical theories how influence should be built up, there is not too much space for the Russians, and still they have some sort of impact on Hungarian foreign and domestic policy. If you ask for an answer why or this did it happen, well, my first observation is that the tool set which was collected after the Orange Revolution in the mid-2000s by the Russians, how to how to manage the future influence building in the post-Soviet and in the Eastern European countries, very much fitted the Hungarian happening. So the diagnosis was rather correct. If you look what Modest Kolarov, the spin doctor of the spin policy, said at times, they realized that they cannot trust the local elites. There are no Russian friends, neither in the post-Soviet space nor in Eastern Europe. If they would like to have some sort of Russian-friendly parties and political forces, they have to create. This was rather successful in Hungary, as you may know. Jobbik was heavily supported by Russian finance at the very beginning when this finance was crucial. Today it is the second biggest party in Hungary. Well, if you look at it, they realize also that the nationalism is the upstream in this country. So it is on the rise. So they have to collect collaborators, supporters, also from the right side. So in Hungary, the good old dualism of Russia-friendly left and Russia-skeptic right has been abolished by at least 2010 at the latest. They also realize that they have something to seek in terms of EU and NATO resistance and skepticism toward this organization. This was publicly said. There are forces which will be against the integration of these economies, and they have to nurture some sort of narrative to these groups. And this was very, very skillfully done in the Hungarian case. So, well, almost I think that Hungary is a success story of the Russian influence building aspect, even if structurally it shouldn't happen. And if you ask what are the three main issues, the main pillars of Russian influence in Hungary, I think that it's quite easy to identify these issues. Well, the biggest asset is the Hungarian mood and attitude towards the West as such. It has been highly skeptical 10 years ago. Since then, well, the government and Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has been very concisely nurturing some sort of EU skeptic communication, propaganda to socialize and to make this normal way of thinking for huge masses of the Hungarian electorate. This is a successful policy. So the basic attitude of the Hungarian population toward the West is rather skeptical. They think about the West as the EU as a declining power. And practically, the image of Russia and the image of the emerging East is at least neutral, can't say even positive. So if you look at the opinion polls, we see that, for example, a couple of years ago, 2/3 of the Hungarians supported deeper economic cooperation with Russia in the midst of the Ukrainian crisis. So that's the Hungarian. The second one is, as I mentioned, the Jobbik, which is a right-wing radical party, highly pro-Russian, and this puts the whole Hungarian party landscape practically pro-Russian. So the leftist democratic parties, when they were in government, pursued a pro-Russia policy. The Fidesz, the government party, is in a highly competitive position with the Jobbik. It became some sort of competition, who is the more pro-Russian in some sort of issues, and also the Jobbik, which has to push it to the very edge in this regard, and Fidesz very often follows Jobbik initiatives. So for example, just to mention an example, that in the times of the Ukrainian crisis, during the Hungarian electoral campaign, Jobbik raised the issue of the Transcarpathian autonomy for Hungarians, when the Ukraine was fighting its war on Donbass. And the government had to follow this path for the great joy of the Russian official media, shooting pictures of Hungarians organizing protests in Transcarpathia for the Hungarian autonomy. And of course saying that even Europeans would like to split Ukraine in such a situation. Well, and the third pillar is, of course, the partial extension project, which is, I think, can be understood in terms of rent-seeking on the Hungarian government side. From the Russian side, I think it is much more like a strong economic stamp that Hungary will have some sort of economic dependence with the Russians. So this is a major project which is credited by the Russian budget. The total value of the investment is approximately 10–11% of the Hungarian GDP. And of course, so this is just to imagine, this is something like 5-year Hungarian exports to Russia. Okay. And this is 80% of the sum is going to be financed by Russia. So this is just a turnaround in terms of energy dependence. And I think a new element will be added, some sort of financial and technical dependence on Russians for the next 1 or 2 decades. That's it.
Thank you very much, Andrei. If you described kind of if you think Hungary as a success story of Russian influence, I would like to give the floor to Antony, because I think that it can provide another perspective how Visegrad countries can deal with the Russians.
Thank you. I will talk about Poland, which is quite a distinctive case among the before countries, and I would risk this analysis that in terms of Russia's direct influence, at least visible, it is perhaps the weakest in the before. There has been a consensus among Polish political parties to rather not to allow and create new dependencies on Russia. So this is a difficult place to operate for Kremlin. I would rather stick to this word as was mentioned before, because we are not talking about Russians, we are talking about Kremlin. This is a centralized authority, and everything comes from Kremlin. So I think it's important every time to underline this, because at a certain point we will have to, and I'm looking forward to work with our Russian friends. There are several factors hampering Russian influence in Poland. One is the lack of significant Russian-speaking minorities. According to census from 2011, there's only about 13,000 Polish citizens who declared Russian nationality. The Orthodox Church has autocephalous status. It does not recognize the authority of the Moscow Patriarchate, and we know that in some countries this is quite important tool. And the last but not least, it's a question of difficult relations, difficult history between Poland and Russia. Poland was for 123 years divided, occupied. Then we had almost 50 years of communism, without mentioning the difficult period of Second World War, when more than 20,000 Polish officers were killed in the Katyn massacre. The Polish elite, basically. And of course that was denied for half a century, and sometimes is still denied by some Russian politicians. So I will focus on media and propaganda as a tool, because I think this is a long-term goal, and because of the fact that young Poles, according to polls, are supporting right-wing parties and are not very trustworthy towards the mainstream media, so they tend to get their information about the world from social media. I think it's important to talk about propaganda in internet. Sputnik, which is operating in Poland since 2015, is not very popular, but it's interesting to follow their narrative, and there are several media like Alex Jones, for example. Name sounds familiar to those who were following the presidential campaign in the US. There's a website, Alex Jones PL, which often gives as its sources Sputnik. There are other, I would, into this category of Kremlin media, I would add dziennikpolityczny.com, which is a website who is famous for giving fake interviews, for example. Last year there was a NATO summit in Warsaw. On the eve of the summit we had 2 fake interviews published also in this on this website, dziennikpolityczny.com. Fake interview with top Polish general who said that it's a mockery that such a small amount of American soldiers will come to Poland. He called them transvestites and homosexuals, and he said, of course, it's a fake. That the NATO guarantees are not worth the paper that they were written on, and so on and so forth. Also, another fake interview this year with top Polish general, and it was discovered by one of the journalists of the Oko Press. It's one of the websites that is doing fact-checking in Poland, that the editor-in-chief of this website, Adam Kamiński, who has on Facebook, he looks like a Polish patriot, basically. There's this Polish flag, an eagle. He has among his friends the Vice Minister of Defense, Andrzej Duda, Polish president, the Minister of Digitalization, and a lot of influential people. But when you look at his photo and you search on Google of this photo, it turns out that it's a Lithuanian orthopedist who probably has no idea that his photo is used to present him as an editor-in-chief of dziennikpolityczny.com. So there are those two websites, and there are more. There are around 60 websites that I know that follow the pro-Kremlin line. I will not tell you what is their name. I will only tell you that what's striking is that those names are may be found alluring to Poles, because there are some websites which are called Wolna Polska, Free Poland, or Wolne Media, Free Media, or Dziennik Narodowy, National Daily. So those are the names that typical Pole may sound like something that Poland was looking forward for during this period that I mentioned before, when it was partitioned, when there was communism in Poland, and so on. We are here to talk about similarities and differences. What's interesting is that this disinformation is coming more and more into YouTube, which is also worrying given the polls that I mentioned before. And what's striking, and I wonder if this is happening also, there are cases like this in before, that there are some professional actors used for this. For example, there is this one guy Alexander Jakubowski. This is not his real name. His real name is Wojciech Olszański, and he looks like a soldier. He always has this hat, and he says that he is a part of a secret organization of the Polish army during the Second World War. But basically, he speaks very eloquently, and his narrative is always very anti-American, anti-Ukrainian, and pro-Russian. And he's a professional actor. And there are some websites that promote his movies. I mean, I wouldn't talk about it if the number of views of, for example, recently, as you know, the eastern flank of NATO was strengthened, and the movie which was his reaction to the American forces that came into Poland, he was very anti-American. It was viewed almost a million times. So that's a worrying trend. So there are websites, there are movies on YouTube, there are some groups on Facebook. For example, Ukrainiec nie jest moim bratem, Ukrainian is not my brother, which is a reaction to the Facebook group Ukrainiec jest moim bratem, Ukrainian is my brother, because it has to be mentioned that majority of Poles are sympathetic to Ukraine, are positive towards Euromaidan and so on. And there are some other strange websites like Polish Vilnius, which is of course which was a reaction to what happened in Donbass to drive a wedge between Poland and Lithuania. There's a great minority in Lithuania of Poles. So during the second project I'm taking part in, we did some analysis, and I will come to an end because I don't have to talk too much about it. We analyzed the internet between July and end of October, and the main narratives that we found was Ukraine is falling apart, NATO is provoking Putin, NATO is a tool of America, US will abandon Poland in case of a war, Polish authorities are Russophobic. Russophobia is a quite well-known narrative because it's very useful. You can use it anytime Kremlin is criticized because Poles are Russophobic. So the last one is Poland should join fellow Slavs. And this is one of the narratives which is, there are not many positive narratives in a sense that propose something that is different to the Euro-Atlantic orientation of Poland, which is pro-EU, pro-NATO. So this is one of those alternatives for Poland, which is quite often used by the Polish member of European Parliament that I mentioned before, Janusz Korwin-Mikke. So it's a very complicated and wide topic, and I think I will end here and discuss further.
Thank you very much, Anthony. And I'd like to ask Rusian to analyze the situation in Slovakia. What are the similarities to other countries? What are the differences? How, because you feel like a very remarkable president when it comes to foreign policy and other issues, like he's very pro-European, very pro-NATO, and he's, if I could say, on the like opposite side of the spectrum than your prime minister. How does it play out?
Yes, thank you, Peter, and Dobrý večer. Thank you for coming. For such a beautiful day, and also, if you know, it's also a celebration of the Great Patriotic War in Russia. Of course, the Patriotic War started in 1941, so there's nothing coming in like before 1941. So nothing about cooperation with fascists, always fighting the fascists. Full disclaimer, as Ivana and Anthony said before me, whatever we're going to say, it focuses only on the current foreign policy of the Russian government. It has nothing to do with Russians. Yeah, I always like to say that unfortunately the Russian people are the first victims of pro-Kremlin propaganda. It's first the Russians, then the Russian-speaking minority in Ukraine, then us Europeans. So including Ukraine, counting it as European. So this is very important to distinguish, because this is what Vladimir Putin is trying to merge together. That if you are against the regime, you are against the Russian people, Russian culture, Russian history, and so on. So he's trying to distinguish this. So when I arrived today from Bratislava, I went to my hotel room. I turned on the TV as I usually do, and of course there was the Russian Today channel, RT. So I watched this nice lady being an expert on libraries and museums, talking about how many people visited, that more people actually visited this year New York Yankees game than visited museums in New York City. And being a Yankee fan, I was positively surprised. Then in 15 minutes, she was suddenly an expert on something else. So she was in a different show, the same person, being an expert on something completely different. So I said, wow, these Russians, they're really perfect English, smart, and like experts being on different topics. Then I switched to another channel, and there was Russia Today or RT documentary. And there was a documentary on self-defense and how young people can teach and learn themselves self-defense to prevent some conflicts in the future. So what are we actually fighting? These guys are really great. And then I turned on Russia 24, and then there was a celebration of course, the Great Patriotic War. And there was one shot of Moscow, one shot of Yekaterinburg, and one shot of Leningrad. And there was, the Leningrad was in the corner, and it said Leningrad. I said, well, I know that Leningrad was actually changed back to St. Petersburg in 1991. And he said, this is what we're fighting. Because I will more talk about the geopolitical context, the broader geopolitical context, what we are fighting actually, or what we are against, what we are trying to push out of Europe, because we're trying to push it out with our positive narratives. And then talking about the Slovakia very briefly. So what Russia has been doing so far is that after the Second World War, or at the end of the Second World War, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the American president, had the idea of some sort of new world order. And he asked the Canadians, he asked the Brits to create a new world order. The Soviet Union wasn't invited back then. And at the time then, when they decided to be invited and asked Roosevelt, so can we help now to create the new world order, the US already declared sort of the nuclear war on the world. They deployed the horrific bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And suddenly the Cold War started. And the Cold War was actually emerging for the Soviet Union, because the Soviet Union was this nuclear power and everybody was afraid of the Soviet Union. At the end of the Cold War, when the Soviet Union stopped being Soviet Union and stopped being so dangerous to the West, and actually becoming more friendly, this is what brought the new KGB and FSB agent Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, and he said, well, what's going on now? They don't fear us anymore. So when he came back to power, well, not back, but when he came to power at the end of 1990s, when he became sort of like prime minister with presidential powers, the first visit that he received in St. Petersburg actually was Prime Minister Tony Blair, and he addressed him as Tony. He wanted to be friendly with him. Then he met George W. Bush. Again, he wanted to be very friendly with George W. Bush, actually playing with the idea of Russia becoming part of NATO. But then came 2003, and the United States went to Iraq with Poles, with Australians, with the UK, without Russia. And they didn't ask Russia. So that was the first sort of the clinch issue when they said that, okay, they don't need us anymore, we need to fight them somehow, and we need to find allies in Europe. So this is what Putin is doing. He's trying to be a disturbing force in Europe. So he's trying to look for allies. These allies are very varied. He's looking for people that are anti-Muslim, pro-gay, like Wilders in the Netherlands. I mean, Putin is very conservative, but Wilders was his ally because he was anti-EU, anti-Muslim, anti-refugees. He has a weird, different coalition of politicians. So this is what he's doing. And 5 minutes really on the Slovakia case, because this is important. So I'm talking about 4 things that are currently going on in Slovakia, and Ivana, of course, can correct me because she knows more about Slovak case than I do. Having this perspective from both from the Czech Republic and Ukraine, which is now, is that the first thing, I'm coming from the short-term and long-term perspectives. Short-term is that Russia is raising support of anti-democratic forces in Slovakia. Then it's continuation of supporting extremists, an extremist party that are almost direct links towards the party of Marian Kotleba. And it's actually great that you are here because whatever I say, you can actually Google and read in your own language, basically in Slovak, because you understand each other. That is the reason why Russia don't invest that much in Slovakia, because they know that Slovaks still cannot read some Czech. And so the third is aggression and aggressive politics of Russian embassy. Its members, what they do, how they threat people, how they threat analysts, how they show up at each conference, sit in the back, just listen, take notes, go home, say hi, but then you read something completely different. And the fourth thing which I would like to emphasize on is the normalization of the Russian narrative in Slovakia. It's sort of the politicization of Russian narratives. And just to say that in Slovakia, the MPs, we talked about MPs going to the Donbass and Crimea. In Slovakia, there were mostly MPs going to, well, all of them actually went to Kiev to support the people of Maidan and support the revolution, and were sort of like supportive of the new government of Arsen Yatsenyuk, Alexei Turchinov, and then later President Poroshenko. And also, of course, take selfies with Klitschko the mayor, also known as Klitschko the winner, and Klitschko the boxer, also known as Klitschko the loser. And so, that was basically it. So, I'm talking about normalization of Russian narrative. This is very important because what's going on in Slovakia is that, and it's sort of our fault, because we discussed the propaganda so much that people that believe the propaganda actually feel powerful now. Because they say, well, they listen to us, they talk about us, they analyze us, they ask what do we think about NATO. And although they still have bad grammar, although they're still uneducated, but they feel so powerful now. They have their own groups, they have their own rallies, they have their own supporters in the parliament. We have members of the parliament. We have a chairman of the Committee on European Affairs that is a laughingstock for the rest of Europe, because he's an openly Marxist, and he goes to the meetings of the chairman of the chairwoman of the European committees all around Europe, and talking about how he's being Russophile because he likes Russia and he likes Russian culture, and everybody says that he's sort of like Russophile, but he's still strongly anti-NATO, anti-US. So this is another issue, is that Sputnik actually tried to penetrate the mainstream media in Slovakia. We often discuss in Slovakia is actually a tough case for the mainstream media promoting the Russian narrative. It's usually, of course, what Anthony said, is the YouTubes, is the Facebooks, and now the Slovak fascists from Kotleba's party actually moved to Vkontakte, which is the Russian version of Facebook, which is very interesting because suddenly they realize that their Russian is not that good, and they actually don't have any friends there, and it's very difficult. And actually, also Vkontakte has rules and terms and conditions, and they can actually block them. So for spreading fascism. So, but Sputnik actually came to the market, and it was supposed to make a contract with our main news agency, TSR, if I'm not mistaken. And there was a sudden, in 48 hours, there was a huge blowback from the social media, from some politicians, and actually the TSR, which is the Slovak press agency, actually draw back from the agreement, which is I think great, because there was a huge thing. And the last thing I'm going to say is what we discussed here, not here but in Slovakia. I'm still being Czechoslovakians now. Is that the false equivalence here, and Ivana mentioned it a little bit, talking about comparing US versus Russian Federation and their influence, and also comparing, for example, what they usually do is to compare Russia to NATO. What people don't understand is that NATO is a force of 28 different sovereign nations, that any of those nations, including Czech Republic, including Lithuania, including Slovakia, can raise up and say, no, we don't agree with this. We will be anti this consensus and we cannot do anything about this. So this is what people say, well, NATO has its bases all around the world. Russia has some bases in Georgia and Ukraine. Well, NATO actually does not have any bases, which is also false equivalency. It has one airport in Hungary, actually, that's it. So when we discuss comparing United States force and the Russian force in Europe, we have to realize that the United States of America is our ally since 1945, although as a Slovak special state we actually declared war on them. So, but at least since we joined NATO and the EU, so they are a full-fledged ally. They come to help us. They never attacked us. If we compare it to the Soviet Union and Russian Federation today, this is not the case. So the false equivalency must be for even, I think, more. And this is the crucial point of the Slovak case, that this normalization and sort of politicization of Russian arguments. When you have two camps which still feel that are equal, which we know that they're not. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Rusian. I will use my privilege as a moderator to ask one more question. All of you. You have described the challenges that your respective countries are facing when it comes to Russian Kremlin, to be precise. And I would like to ask you to briefly identify 3 concrete measures that should be taken or have been already taken to counteract these activities. What are, like, very briefly, if you can identify 3 concrete measures that should be taken, and I will start with Ivana.
I could speak for like half an hour on this question, unfortunately. No, because this is the thing. Like, it's such a complicated issue. There is no one project. There are no 3 initiatives that will solve the situation.
The most important one.
It affects so many parts of the society, so many levels of the society. You need to work with each of them. And we cannot just focus on the measures themselves. Yes, these are important, but we need to also address the weaknesses and the challenges that those measures are exploiting. And if I could name, okay, I started, what I find the most important is the education. And it's not just the critical thinking, of course, the way we access information today is changing. Our educational system is not adjusted to it. But it's also, for example, education of history. Like, education of history in our schools, at least I know I can compare Czech Republic and Slovakia, usually stops at the end of the Second World War. So the last 70 years are usually not covered very briefly. So how do you want society to understand the importance of NATO, of EU, if they don't understand the realities of the last 70 years of the Cold War, why the EU, how the EU has developed, etc. This is a huge gap in our education system. Then I would address, okay, I compare, because it's really hard for me to name a couple. There's a list is really long, but I think what is very important, we need to move the discussion just from what Russia is doing. Yes, they're doing horrible things, but we will never be able to shut down all websites, to stop them what they're doing. We can do a little, but we will never be able to stop them doing. We need to work on ourselves more. And I compare countries, because I've been writing articles on comparison of different strategies of Russian disinformation, pro-Russian disinformation in various countries around Europe. And I was asking people from each country, how do you think your propaganda or disinformation is different from other countries? And I got really interesting response from Finland, and they didn't want to be named, so I don't want to say who it was, but it was from the state sector. And they said, we actually think, even though we are under significant pressure, we actually think that our society is much more resistant to Russian disinformation or influence than other societies. And it's mainly because there's a high awareness about this threat. The politicians are acknowledging it openly, civil society is countering, media are discussing it, so there's a general awareness. But if you look at Finland, this is not the only factor. If you look at Finland, it's got one of the best education systems in the world. It's the second least corrupt country in the world according to Transparency International, and it's got some of the most effective local governments also in Europe. So, I mean, all these factors are contributing to a resilient society that is like trusting its leader, it's trusting its elites, and like, then when I compare it to Slovakia, where basically the government is going from one corruption crisis to another corruption crisis, then I'm not surprised there is some kind of like a mistrust between the citizen and the government. And then within this mistrust and frustration, step in some other influence. And it's not important if it's Russia, or if it's populist, or if it's any other country or anybody. It's more about like what you're exploiting on the ground, which is important. And I think we in the future should focus more on like why somewhere it's more effective than in other places, you know, and based on this, proposing like what needs to be done. But this is really such a complex issue, and I extended my, I guess, maybe.
And you named only two. So, Tony?
I would say, and I would give you an example of what happened in January when American forces came to Żagań, a city in western Poland. Actually, the mayor's website was hacked, and information about the demonstration against the American occupiers. This information was put on the mayor's website, also in another city, Miejsce Piastowe. It doesn't tell me much, so it will tell you much as well. Well, compared to what happened on the eve of French elections, I'm talking about the hacking of campaign of staffers of President Macron. So coming back to your question, check the sources of information. If you see that something is strange, is emotional, is anti-refugees, is anti-Ukrainian, check this website, see who is behind it, see who is the author of it, because the majority of those disinforming stories that we have identified throughout this second project, Information Warfare, in the V4, they are written by anonymous authors, because one of the, and that would be the second point probably, one of the ways to tackle this is to ask those authors to put them in the public spotlight and to confront their ideas with reality. But of course, this is a question of the role of public media. And we have a problem with public media in Poland. Just today I've checked, there is a report about media freedom, and we are not in the same category as we have before. We are with Hungary. We joined Hungary, but Czech Republic and Slovakia are higher in this ranking. Another one. You probably. How many of you here have smartphones? Please raise it. Or no. How many of you here do not have a smartphone with you? Raise your hand. Okay. So my advice would be give a like on Facebook to EU Mythbusters. I think this is their name on Facebook. It's EU East Stratcom team. Okay, EU versus Disinfo, because they have a different name on Twitter, different name on Facebook. By the way, I think this should be there should be one name. Why am I saying this? Because they are actually, this is part of the European diplomacy, so European External Action Service, a team of 11 people. They are doing a tremendous job regarding debunking fake news, and they count on information from civil society. So if you notice a fake, report it to them. They will verify it, they will check it. They are basically doing the same job as Stop Fake, but in the EU. So I would ask you to follow what they are doing, and I think this disinformation review, that's the product they have every Thursday. And it's a compilation of all fake stories from EU, but also from Russia. They're working on a new website right now. So follow what they are doing, and of course the response should also come from the state. But it's hard. It's hard. I mean, in Czechia you have this hybrid threat center. That should be done in other EU states. I'm convinced. But education, absolutely. But that's a long-term goal. The role of public media, I think that is really crucial, and it's connected to raising awareness. Basically, we need to raise awareness about it. I mean, it's with the fancy bear team, it's getting easier and easier. And again, I'm thinking about what will happen with not only in the US campaign, but also recently in France. But we need to talk about it, and we need to convince young people to think critically. Because basically, it comes to thinking critically. So we need to have those courses about critical thinking in universities. But also that would involve educating teachers first, because I would assume that quite often pupils are more aware of how to deal with social media than teachers. So that should be first. They should be educated. Those teachers. But that's a long-term goal, education.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Andras, what are your 3 silver bullets or buckshots that you would choose?
Well, in short or medium term, I have only one. I think that Hungarian case is a top-down case, so very much depends on the government in the current situation. The Russians are rather cautious in grassroots projects because this may pose conflicts to the government, and the government gives them what they want. And Orban controls the country, so it's a one-man show. It will be pretty difficult for the Russians to bribe senior decision makers. So that's the situation. So the attitude of the government is the problem. We still don't know whether it's fear or greed what drives the government, in the case of Russians, maybe both. But so I would wish for my government more caution and less voluntarism in the short and medium term. And in the long term, I agree with those you mentioned, education, critical attitude. I have to say that I'm still rather optimistic. So, since I don't fully understand the nature of the Russian influence, how it is built, and I'm an economist, so I have rather, how to say, skeptical vision for future Russian economic growth, welfare, and whatever. I don't know whether this is feasible, this kind of influence is feasible on the Russian side. I think in the long term also what may play a big role is the Hungarian attitude toward the West and the Western attitude to Hungary. That's the major issue.
Okay, thank you for that very easy question. we are often being told that we sort of trying to convert the already converted, that we preaching to a choir, but having spent time in the southern state of Tennessee, if you go to a choir and you listen to a preacher of Black Baptist Church, they are very powerful. They can go from teaching you how to make the greatest pecan pie or honey roasted ham, or they can actually teach you something that is valuable. So I think that preaching to a choir actually has some value in it. I'm not going to use the E word that is often being portrayed as this sort of silver bullet that, okay, yes, we need to do this, and everything in maybe second generation, third generation, in 60 years will be all saved. After the pupils that are being born now will be actually grown-ups. So I will go to different things, and because this is, I think also Peter's question was on what can we do like now here physically. What you can do is you can support media, you can support journalism, you can support them financially, you can support them even that you give likes on Facebook or you retweet something, or what is very valuable today that in Slovakia is started, I think in Sweden, correct me if I'm wrong, that sort of hashtag #SomTu, which is hashtag I'm here, which is when you see a hateful comment under an article, any kind of article, just go there, show up by this hashtag #Semtari or something like that, and that gets likes, so you can just basically push them out, push out the trolls, push out all the people that are actually hateful towards the article or towards the journalists. So support media, support journalism. We need quality journalism. We need people in the region. We need people in Ukraine. We need people in Donbass and journalists. And often in Slovakia they pay it out of their own pocket. So this is the first thing. Second thing, and I'm going to use a different new word, which is enterprise. Enterprise projects, crowdsourcing. Every time you find there is a new project, new app, new addition to Google Chrome or something else that can actually help either your friends or your family to actually detect what is propagandistic article supported, which 10, 20 crowns, 100 crowns. I mean, this is a couple of beers, right? 2 or 3 beers. You can actually sacrifice that, or wine, or water, or whatever. I'm not going to having beer. I don't want to distinguish anyone. So this supporting enterprise. And the third thing is, I think most important, and this is what I'm finding out very recently, is talk to people, talk to your friends, and talk to your colleagues. We all have friends, we all have family members that is sort of like, you know, when I was younger, we always say, well, don't discuss politics over lunch, don't discuss politics over dinner, or these guys, they always talk politics. It's good to talk politics. It's actually very good to talk politics. Include also young people, not too young, but also young people. And talk to your friends, because I have many friends that would otherwise hate me if they hadn't known me. So if I'm going out with my friends, with my high school peers that believe these pro-Russian narratives, I just sit them down and say, look at me. I mean, I'm studying this. I've been studying this for the past, I don't know, couple of years. So you're a doctor. I'm not going to go to ER and tell you how to operate on a person. So don't tell me how to do my job. Because if you want to criticize a doctor, you actually have to have a surgery on someone. If you want to criticize an analyst, you just open your mouth or write a blog. So this is very difficult. And talk to your colleagues, because they will listen to you. Your friends will listen to you. Your family members will listen to you. At least you crack something in their minds. And these 3 things, so supporting media, supporting enterprise and crowdfunding and projects, and talk to your people, I think, and this is going to be my slunička part, stick to your values, stick to your principles, because I think this will be the long term. That just never give up. I mean, this is something that we should say as much as possible, and much more difficult than education actually to maintain. Get out of your bubble, talk to the people. If you feel that you can persuade them in 5 minutes, do so. If you can't, tough luck. Some people you will never persuade. Some people will never believe you. Some people will never believe in institutions that you believe in. Anthony said very, very rightly, critical thinking is important. In Slovakia, critical thinking means that you are anti-Russian for other people. If you say that you need to think critically, it means that you need to criticize Vladimir Putin and his foreign policy. We're not going to win those people over by this narrative. Because what is the slogan of RT? Anybody knows?
Question everything.
Question everything, question more. Yeah, exactly. So they believe, those people that believe the Russian narrative, they think they are critically thinking, although they only believe one source. And we believe 180 press agencies, they believe one, TASS. But they are the critical thinking because everybody's trying to hide this story or this event. So stick to your core values, stick to your principles, and try to persuade people that are within your reach. Some people will never be persuaded. Never. They will never trust you, never trust institutions. They will never trust the UN, let alone NATO or the EU. They will never trust the World Bank if you show them statistics on how Russia is doing actually. You will never try, no, everything is, if you don't feel like you cannot persuade them, don't do it. But if you feel there's at least a slight change, kindle the fire, start it, and talk to them. So these are my 3 or 4 or 7 actually things how to fight these things.
I was actually betting who would be speaking for longer, whether Ivana or you, but thank you very much. And without further ado, I would like to open the floor to the audience. I would like to ask you to introduce yourself and identify to whom from the panelists your question is addressed. I think that we will try without the microphone first. If it won't work, I will run to you with the microphone. So the gentleman in the black t-shirt.
Yes, I'm studying at Czech University Security Studies Master's Program. My question is for Ivana. You mentioned at the beginning that you see the efforts trying to destroy more than to build. Do you think that that's because of Russia's strategic position after the Cold War and today? Or does that have more to do with domestic politics inside of Russia and more short-sighted goals?
Is it only to me?
Yes.
So much. Well, this is more about the question about the what's the goal of Russia? It's really challenging question, and it's a great question actually. But like nobody sees him to put his head. So you don't really know what's his goal or like the end game or what he want to achieve. I think it's a combination of the reason. As Andras rightly pointed out, it's kind of his economy is collapsing, and it's not just the economy; it's also. So actually, the situation in Russia is quite bad. And when you have internal problems, you try to focus attention on something abroad. It's really easy, and it's also easier to create an enemy than build something. You know. And Russia, as you pointed out, has got economic problems, it's got social problems, it's getting more and more allies abroad. And by doing so, I think just focusing on something which is abroad is kind of you're shifting the attention from internal problems to something which is abroad. So I think it's partly internal problems. But also from putting EU and democracy itself, it's a threat. It's a threat because EU is now imposing sanctions, and it's also a threat to its own system which they have abroad. And this is the case of, for example, Ukraine. If the Ukraine succeeds to be a democracy, this is a big threat for Putin. Because if this happens, if Ukraine is in future is going to be a prosperous democratic nation, then like the social contract which Putin's got with its people, when they see that Ukraine is doing much better with the Western system than with the Russian system, then he's in trouble, like in a few years. So I think it's a combination of reasons why they're trying, like why they're doing what they're doing. Is that of course sanctions are hurting them, the oil prices are low, so they don't have money, so it's partly also economical, it's partly strategical, but it's also a threat to their own systems. Yeah. So yeah, if anybody wants to add anything to it.
Well, just two observations to this. The one that also the Hungarian example shows that if you wants to remain in power, you cannot become Viktor Orbán lost 3 elections, and still is there. Prime Minister could not manage it in a democratic party. If Vladimir Putin would like to stay for 20 years, 50 years, he has to deliver. It won't be a liberal democratic Russia, and it is much more manageable than Russia and Hungary. Second, that I have a bit of empathy in this whole post-Soviet story because all my relatives in Russia are middle-class families, well off. Some of them did much better than me, and they are deeply chauvinistic and nationalistic. But this is still the major force, I think, the major opposition, the potential oppositionist electorate for Putin. So he could not have an image of losing Ukraine or the post-Soviet state as such, especially given the fact that he cannot deliver in terms of battle. So I think that somewhere after 2012, when he came back, he was in a very difficult domestic policy position. I'm not saying that he must have do what he did, but it was a very, very complex situation for him in 2012, 2013, and last 2014 because of this Ukraine story. Just to give some sort of optimistic tone, but if you look at the long-term opinion polls in Russia, it shows that, for example, Ukraine as a sovereign nation is more and more accepted. War as a mean of international politics is more and more refused by the Russian public. So in the long term, the trend is the same, and this has been measured for like 3 years. So this is a quite convincing time series. So in terms of the Russian society, not everything is wrong, and the reaction is not totally right.
Can I just briefly one more thing? I have from some people who's got really good contacts in Russia, in Kremlin. I mean, Putin has been in power since 2000, basically, so for the last 17 years. Okay, with few gap when Medvedev was president, but then anyway, it was still Putin who was running Russia. And like, as he's getting like older or like more, I don't know, egocentric, the circle of his advisors, or like the advices he's getting from closer and closer people. He's getting more, how do you call it? He's getting like
the circle is closing?
Yes, exactly. So less and less, and he's less likely to listen to critical voices, for example. And people are more and more afraid of him as he's getting a little bit more aggressive. So the people around him don't want to bring him a bad message. So I think also his picture of the world is getting more and more distorted over the time when you compare it like 10 years ago. So that might be another factor why like some of the steps of his recent years are kind of irrational for me. Like I think Putin is a bad strategist. He's basically creating enemies. He now has friends. It's like most of the countries. He's economically is not delivering. So yeah, that's just another factor. Is like this like the advices he's getting might be actually quite distorted because he doesn't want to listen to critical voices anymore.
Thank you very much, Ivana. Another question?
Maybe more a comment. I have a full spectrum of people who are anti-Russian or pro-Russian, and I see that actually the propaganda is basically based on attacking our own fake news, our own fake narratives, like the Sputnik and such bullshit sites. Basically, they produce a lot of propaganda, which is hidden for kind of one time they publish an article which has grain of truth, which is it can be verified that actually it's real. And so they aim against our own fake news, own fake propaganda, to strengthen their position as, okay, we are telling you the truth, this is how it is, they are lying to you, and to believe us that the rest of things are true as well. Also, I'm pointing on kind of bending reality in local mainstream news. Like, for example, now when there are some attacks on the West, local news are reporting that trucks attacked. There are some, there was no mention of attackers, but about the tools of use, which are used. While Russians immediately abused that, and there are volleys of articles, hey, they are lying to, they are hiding truths about who is it, and such stuff. So that like they get credit. Okay, they are trying to investigate, they are not trying to hide anything, so maybe they are not lying at all. And this gets a lot of people who don't care about politics, they are not covering what's happening around. So then they see this, okay, they does this, which was not told by other, and then they believe them. Or now like I'm part of several atheist groups, and now in Saudi Arabia there's atheist who is going to be beheaded, and no one is covering it except some Russian, probably Russian paid sites, and that way they get another credit.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the comment. I'll just address a couple of things that Russia, or Kremlin propaganda is, well, we established that it's Kremlin. So Kremlin propaganda is working basically on a couple of notions. First is being more truthful. So whatever's first, people, it's from the psychological point of view, when people read it first, they have the bias, confirming bias, and then they look for pages that are similar to the first one that they read. Not to actually go out of their bubble, go out of their comfort zone, actually challenge their views. That's the first thing. Second thing is that is flooding with information, whether truthful or not. If you go to Google and you Google NATO, simple NATO, and you go to the news, first 3 pages are guaranteed that will be Sputnik, will be RT, something else, because they're pushing and pushing and pushing. So many news. And the anti-Muslim thing is actually very interesting, because this is how the Russian narrative was kind of changing in Slovakia, from going from being anti-gay and conservative in maybe 2013-14 with the refugee crisis, coming back to anti-Muslim, which is very interesting because you know where is the largest mosque in Europe? In Moscow, and it was opened by Vladimir Putin. It was very funny, laughing in front of with all the religious leaders. So this anti-Muslim narrative is also kind of coincidence. And the last thing is that the Russia is the Kremlin propaganda is working with 3 actually levels. First are lies. Lies can be debunked very easily, simply BS. Second is half lies or half truth, call them half lies, which are much more difficult to debunk. And then twisted truth, when basically the article is truth on its own, but the title, the pretext, and everything about the article is basically wrong. The interpretation is wrong. I'll give you one example and I'll finish. Is that when Scaparotti, who is a general, he's a secure Supreme Allied Commander in Europe, also Supreme Commander of US Army Forces in Europe, or forces in general, he said that during the press conference that NATO is actually working on 2 flanks. One is Russia, which is eastern flank, and southern flank, which is fighting against Daesh. And the title of the article in Slovak propaganda website said that NATO general said that Russia is a threat. Oh no, he said the NATO general said that he wants to destroy Russia or something like that. And the article said completely truthful information about his speech, about his press conference, that he said that NATO is working on 2 flanks, but the title was there. And you know that people have attention span at the level of my 3-year-old niece. So basically they spend 6 seconds on the article. They see NATO, general, Russia, destroyed. That's it. And share it.
I am not sure if I understood, but your question, but it's certainly there are always there must be some part of truth. Some articles of Sputnik, for example, are okay. I mean, in terms of facts, but in order to disinformation to make effect, there must be some kind of truth, and this is the Soviet active measure toolbox known for many years. Just one example. There is this website in Poland, Zmiany na ziemi.pl, changes in the world. That's my translation PL, where you look at this website and it's basically about changes in the world, both in terms of some natural aspects like volcanoes, but also there are some articles about the UFO, or in general some forces of nature, and out of the sun you look that there's an article that Ukrainians would want to take over the eastern provinces of Poland. So it's a system to get likes. Okay, so this is how it starts. They publish some quite often they publish truthful information. Quite often facts are mixed with opinions, because this is also a very smart way to manipulate public opinion, because a good journalist is the most important principle is to distinguish first facts, and then the reader should be able to distinguish that the facts are here, and here comes opinion. Sputnik loves to mix it. So we also have to pay attention, and this is part of the critical thinking. Where is the author of the article writing about facts, and what actually are his opinions? That's just my comment to what you said.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Something.
Absolutely, you put it right. You don't need lies to have disinformation campaign, or like to deliver your narrative. And I would just watch the Russian TV, for example. I mean, 80% of it is nothing political. It's just show. It's fun. You know, it's something very, I don't know, like catchy, etc. And in between those 80%, you implant, like you apply your, like, you send your political messages or like propaganda or anything. With the disinformation media in Czech Republic and Slovakia, it could be maybe what we've been discussing, just like it's maybe 60% of it is true. It's like true articles. It may be even taken from some credible media that we read every day, from Guardian, from anything, from some local sources. 60% might be credible. That's how you build your credibility. And the 40% might be manipulated, for example. And how you manipulate it? You don't need to manipulate with lies. I mean, you just need to constantly point to the bad things and like constantly talking about the problems, about the corruption, about the immigrants, about the like anything. You just need to stress, and one more important factor in those, like, which we haven't yet discussed, is the use of emotions. Like, I mean, this is really powerful weapon. Once you start using emotions, especially negative emotions, you're losing this debate. You cannot really work with the arguments with the person once you create fear, for example. And Masaryk University had a really interesting study on this. They analyzed 3,000 articles, I think, from parliamentary listing, or some other, maybe there was even more media. And they found it, out of those 3,000 articles, half of them was emotionally charged, with negative emotions. It was most frequently, it was fear, hatred, and outrage. And it's like, once you start tapping on people's emotions, arguments doesn't work. This is psychology. It's too late. Then you need to apply actually different methods to work with the person. And one very article from Zemavek, actually. You can just read the headlines. It's like it was, I think, inactivity of the EU government and sexual agenda. So you just, in the first part, point to the your government's not doing enough to protect you, and then you exaggerate the threat, you know, and that's enough. You don't need to lie. You might just like, and how are you going to debunk it? I mean, it's impossible. That's why I'm a little bit skeptical about debunking. I mean, it's important for us analysts, and it's important to raise awareness and like have the proof or data. But as for like working with the people, that's a little bit tricky.
Okay, thank you. So 90 minutes are coming to the end. Okay, so one final question. There was a gentleman just under the picture under the Holy Trinity, and so please.
Yeah, how do you think we can handle fighting disinformation as the web becomes more complex in the way in which we could distort information, not just through copying photos or writing articles, but as videos become distorted through the capacity to edit these videos? Like, where do you see the disinformation? Like, how do you fight this disinformation, not just through education or backing up sources, but once videos become distorted, how do these interdependencies then move on to the next level?
As we are running out of time, I would say that limiting bots, that would do a lot. Because if you look at the number of bots on Twitter, for example, I'm not sure about the numbers, but it's just incredible. If you compare number of bots to the normal human users of Twitter. And of course, this is a question of echo chambers, how this information is distributed. So that would be my recommendation.
Two short things. One thing is that now you can actually have give technology how to find out whether the video is being faked or it is being edited, or you can actually find YouTube allows you to find the original source of the video. So even though the video has been edited or being edited under maybe a new date, you can actually check the source of the video. That's one thing. And the second thing is there is also a movement in within our midst to do everything as simple as possible, to explain how the EU works in 30 seconds and using a lot of emotions, a lot of emoticons, you know, but you cannot explain the transatlantic relations, or you cannot explain the 2010 strategic concept of NATO in 30 seconds. So, and I would also like to leave you with this thought that we should play their game, we should know their game rather than play their game, because when we go and we demise ourselves and we actually say that we have to explain everything in 30 seconds, not only that we diminishes the work that we do, we also think of the people, our audience, that are less than actually are. Because, I mean, there will be still people that won't understand how the EU works, even if you show them a 30-second video. And there will be still people to find out how the EU works if they read the whole Lisbon Treaty. So we should know the game, but we shouldn't play, and we shouldn't downgrade ourselves to fight with the same tools. Not all the time, at least.
There's the usual academic critical remark. I think that authoritarian regime confronted this problem first. So if you look at the Arab Spring, China, Russia, they had to do something with this social media presence and something like that. I'm not an expert on this, but one thing was prohibition, just monopolize the information space and do something with it. And the other one was rather quantitative than qualitative work, so just produce more of your kind, because it's a war of numbers. Well, we also have to think about something third, faith. In this regard, I think it's quite. I think that it's a general problem and not only Russian related.
I would just stress what was already said, rather than just being reactive, which we need to be reactive as well, but be more proactive. I think that's important. And one, just to the technology companies, that's another challenging issue, I think, and to be a little more optimistic. I think things are moving within those, like I talked to from Google, from Facebook. There's been a lot of pressure on those companies because they have a big part in this. And things are moving. 2 years ago, they wouldn't listen to this. For them, it was too political. Right now, there's a big internal discussion in all those technology companies. What are we going to do about it? Like how we are going to accommodate our internal policies. I mean, that's for me, that's promising. And the pressure came from media, from civil society, but also from the government a lot. For example, in Germany, they proposed a new law. It's not yet it's not active, but if companies are not fighting the hate speech on their platforms, for example, Facebook, they could get fined for up to, I think, 50 millions of EU. And then there's this economic, and this is an economic threat, basically, which I think can be quite even better than the pressure from the civil society. So I think things are moving. And we are also, you can see in the IT world, there are a lot of ideas, a lot of things are changing. So I'm hopeful for the future in respect to the technology company. But you'll never be able to delete or to prevent all of this. I mean, that's impossible in the cyber world.
Thank you very much, Ivana. I think that one of the takeaways from this discussion is that the antidotes to the Kremlin's influence, Russia's influence activities that you suggested, be it critical thinking, education, supporting independent media, they would worth be doing anyway. They would make our democracy stronger, they would make our societies more resilient to any kind of extremism. So I think that we may be kind of thankful to the strategists at Kremlin for identifying these weak spots that we should focus on strengthening right now. And maybe the title of our project should be just raising awareness, because I think that we should be more aware of what's going on, and we should be more active in counteracting the dangerous tendencies threatening our societies. And I hope on that activist note, I would like to thank you for joining us, and I would like to thank all of our panelists for their wonderful and thoughtful remarks. And I guess that they might be open to discuss further over beer, wine, water, or whatever else. So thank you very much for coming, and see you soon. We will be organizing political summits. Thank you.